welcome to another episode of Modern Mom, where we talk about being a mom in the 21st century, especially myself. My name is Remy Kay. I am a certified life and relationship coach as well as a comedian. Today I have with me fellow life coach Ariana.
Hi, I'm Ariana.
So Ariana, I have here, she is a climbing partner here at the studio. We are on location in San Jose. Really motivated me and encouraged me to get my lead card, my lead certification. And actually, I took the test with you, and I passed the test with you, which was kind of exciting and very, sort of nostalgic and sentimental and connecting. So that was a really exciting thing. And then also, Ariana actually teaches yoga here at the studio, amongst other places. But here at the studio is where I've taken her classes. And my kids, actually, my two kids, 6 and 8-year-old, come and take your classes as well. And they absolutely love you. They think that you're very, just really loving. You're very good at connecting, I think, with your students. And you're just a great yoga teacher.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
You got your certification in Bali, correct?
Yes, I went in December of 2018 to Bali, Indonesia, where I went to an awesome school, Santosha Yoga Institute, and I got to practice for a month on the beach, on the beaches of Bali, in a yoga shala, just overlooking all the ocean. It was a very healing and transformative experience where I learned a lot about not just yoga, but also myself. I recommend if anyone feels like they want to do a yoga teacher training, even if you don't feel like you want to be a yoga teacher, just doing the retreat, the training part can be an amazing experience.
I've heard that, actually. I've heard some people say that. What kind of drew you toward that path, and what made you think Bali? I mean, I guess Bali is a very common kind of destination. How does it also compare to maybe going on vacation in Bali?
Yeah, so I've actually been on vacation to Bali after my yoga teacher training because I didn't get to see all the sites that I wanted to see while I was there. What brought me to Bali, just like a gut feeling. I knew it was a big center for yoga, but especially I wanted to learn about the yoga principles and philosophy, not just the physical poses and all of that part of yoga, but really like the grounding philosophy of it. And Bali is actually called the Island of the Gods.
Okay.
So it's a very spiritual place. And
do you feel it? Do you feel it when you're there? Yeah.
Definitely. You can see one of the mountains where one of the gods resided on top of. And that was the reason I chose Bali. India is also the origin place of yoga.
And you're going there for your extended training as well, aren't you? When is that?
That's the plan. That's the plan. So in March of 2025, I'll be heading to India to do the 300-hour training. Did the 200-hour in Bali, and then going to do the 300-hour to get the full 500-hour certification.
Okay, that's exciting. So then how long would you end up being in India for that training?
It would be a full month.
Okay. Okay. And what part of India?
Goa. So also on the beach. I'm a big beach lover, but I also very much connect to the water. It's a big part of my spiritual connection. Has helped me do a lot of healing too.
Okay, that's interesting because Ariana's a Taurus, and actually a lot of my friends and people I'm close to end up being Tauruses, and I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a water sign, and we connect very, very well. So I think it's kind of funny in telling that.
Well, I'm a Taurus sun, but Pisces moon and rising.
So. Oh, and rising.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I knew that you were water on both moon and rising. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I see the Pisces actually, to be honest.
Super emotional.
No, not emotional. Pisces are actually, they are emotional, but Pisces are kind of the glands of the zodiac, to be honest.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, they're kind of the most attractive, but spiritually attractive. It's not meant to be a shallow type of compliment, but yeah, they're just very spiritually attractive. Their energy is very attractive. They've got that emotion and authenticity of the water sign, but then they also have the kind of calming ability to, think of fish. The symbol for Pisces is fish. And where are they? They're in the water, which is tumultuous, and yet they find this, kind of smooth, serene place in the water, and they manage to live like a very serene-ish life.
Yeah, I found that like when my head is just really loud and noisy, the peace that I get submerging myself under the water, whether that's in a pool or in the bathtub or whatever it is, just really brings a sense of peace and helps me kind of calm down and reset my nervous system.
That's interesting, isn't it? I feel similar in terms of when all my senses are almost blocked or being very stimulated in a certain way. So I'm really into sound. I think the word sound bath is so appropriate because it's usually consists of sound bowls, and I love sound bowls, and something about that immersion of the senses. It kind of represents that, and I feel the same way. I feel very relaxed and actually emotional. Have you ever had a sound bath before?
Yes.
How does it for you?
Yeah, when I went back to Bali for vacation after the yoga teacher training, and the building was actually like triangular shaped, so that the sound would be floating around in a certain way. We all laid in a circle around the like triangular room, and I'm a big believer in all of that, and I felt like it just cleansed me from the inside out.
Yeah, I feel as though it had released some blocks for me, and near the end of the session, I wasn't even moving, but the tears were just kind of flowing out of my eyes and just piling up kind of next to my face. So I did feel like it was very releasing and kind of a good experience. I would be interested to try an actual water immersion, sound immersion type of thing. That's interesting. So tell me more about when you went back to Bali on vacation after doing the yoga retreat. Like, did you feel like you saw almost a different side? I mean, because for me, my parents are from Asian Orient, and they, I see a very, I think, different side. I go to Bangladesh, which is, very poverty-stricken, unfortunately, and there's a lot of sides to it. And there's also a lot of beauty to it, even that side of it. And I just wonder, from someone from the West, what is it like going there and seeing that? And also talk about your feelings around going to India, because I know we kind of talked about it one-on-one, and I'd kind of like to get into that too.
Yeah, well, both my parents are immigrants. So my mom's from Peru, my dad is from Croatia. So I've had the privilege of traveling around from an early age and being exposed to different realities. And it was my very first time in Asia, however, when I went to do the Bali yoga teacher training. I loved it. It was, beautiful nature, amazing food. When I went back, very similar experience. I actually started in Bali, and then I went to Thailand, Cambodia, did a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Nepal, and then went to India for a 300-hour yoga teacher training that I actually began but couldn't finish because that's exactly when the pandemic hit. Overall, just looking at it with really open eyes and recognizing that there are a lot of cultural differences and a lot of food differences, a lot of weather, it's very hot differences. Connecting to that humanity and knowing, these are parents with kids and trying to do everyday life just like us, have different circumstances in a different environment. It helped me appreciate a lot of the gifts that we have here in the U.S. and also be a little bit more critical about our life here in the U.S. and capitalism, the consumerism, the focus of needing to do so much in order to succeed.
I love that you mentioned that. I love that you talk about the success and that you put the quotes around it, because it's true. Our notion of success is very driven by some outside influences. And I have found that in my journey of transitioning from high tech to, what I'm doing now, it's very different and very needed. I mean, it was kind of an inner thing for me where I really saw that I wasn't really fitting in that anymore. As I, do more self-discovery and as I work more on my, physical, and it's funny how much physical fitness is related to mental and emotional fitness, spiritual fitness. Do you find that as well?
Definitely. I teach parenting class right now, and yesterday we had a class talking about self-care and the 4 dimensions of self-care being physical, emotional, social, and spiritual. And so a lot of times people just think of either the physical self-care or the emotional self-care, but they miss the 2 other buckets. And so, and they're all interconnected and overlap as well. Looking at the self-care is more than just the bubble baths and
the face mask. That's what I always think about.
Right. How good is a bubble bath if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not feeding your body with good nutrition, if you are not tending to the physical aspects of keeping a healthy body so that you can keep a healthy mind and then have that healthy spirit.
I love that. That's really good. I've actually taken one of Ariana's classes, one of the life coaching classes, and you do have a very complete, holistic approach to, I think, coaching, and you do talk about all those aspects, and I think it's easy, and it's important. I get it. It's important to really focus on one because it's hard to kind of, touch on everything, but I love that you include that and you also have that knowledge. So you're, going to India for your 300-hour, so I'm South Asian, but the Ayurvedic,
Ayurveda?
Ayurveda, yeah, is that how you say it?
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda. Okay, so
Well, that's how me as a white girl says it.
Okay, so how do you approach from that perspective? Do you, kind of include that as well? And, what do you, because I know that, at the end of her class, she gives kind of a little like, kind of adjustment, like a head adjustment, neck adjustment. Is that kind of from that practice?
Yeah, it actually comes from Thai massage.
Okay.
It's one of my yoga teachers that taught me how to do that in my initial 200-hour teaching. So it wasn't necessarily Ayurveda. My understanding of Ayurveda is nutritional side of things, and how we have different body types, different body shapes based on the elements, and how certain bodies need more or less of certain foods. So I actually started some Ayurveda learning during my initial 300-hour in India, but didn't get to finish it. Read a lot of, I don't know if you've heard of Sahara Rose.
Is she a podcaster?
Yes, she has a lot of different things, but she wrote a book on Ayurveda, and then and I do her daily mindfulness journal. So
nice.
She made a journal, and it has the date that connects to a certain phase of the like Ayurveda. There's Kapha, Vata, and Pitta. Kapha is the earth, and so really grounding foods. Pitta is the fire, so very fiery foods, spicy foods. And then Vata is air, so airy foods, lighter foods, that sort of thing. You need more or less of a certain type of food. On your menstrual cycle as well, the Kapha, Pitta, Vata helps determine your energy levels. During your menstrual cycle, you're in your Vata stage, so you're much more airy. Right after it's done, you are in more of a Kapha, more of a grounding, more of a coming inside, protecting. After that's finished, then you're more in your fiery.
Okay.
And then
the ovulation period.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Oh, we want to work out. We want to be active. We want to be physically fit. But it's needed to say that there are different levels of energy and requirements during that different parts of the cycle. So having just kind of more knowledge on ways to kind of supplement that and be there for that, I think is really important. That's super cool.
Yeah, like just last week, I was climbing here, and I pushed myself way too hard. Yeah. And I was totally depleted. And afterwards, I realized I had just started my period. Oh. So I didn't have that knowledge prior to going into it, and pushed myself way too hard. And it was the wrong day to do that. Yeah. I was not on the right
and
part
I love
of my cycle.
That you messaged me and you were like, hey, I can't do it today.
Yes.
Like, it's really important to take care of yourself. And I want to talk about that for a second, too, because I feel like you are a loving, gentle, sweet person, and you also have very good boundaries.
Oh, thank you.
Lovingly, by the way, because a lot of people who maybe go through the healing journeys is that setting boundaries can be like an earthquake in the beginning or a volcano in the beginning. So it's like this volcano, and then it erupts in the beginning, and that's how the boundaries are set, and it's very messy, and it's yucky, and it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't look good. And then later what I've been finding is I'm able to gently but firmly set those boundaries. So it's almost like a radio dial. I have to kind of set the dial according to the audience. Some audiences require a higher volume, and some audiences require a lower volume. So talk to me about that.
Very simply put, looked like, am I saying yes to others and saying no to myself? So if saying yes to others is saying no to myself, if I am putting their needs before my own, then that is crossing my own personal boundary, and that's what I try to avoid. Yep. So prior to that, I didn't want to be a selfish person. I wanted to always be there for other people. But if I'm not setting those personal boundaries, I deplete my bucket very, very quickly, and then, burn out, and I can't be there for myself or others. Right. And so and it's been a journey, right? But by practicing saying no, saying, I would love to see you, but today I'm really not up to it. And you don't even have to give a reason, right? Sometimes if you don't feel like it's needed, you don't have to say why.
Right. I honestly, I want to pause on that for a moment, because that is so important. I mean, like, say it again. You don't have to say why. You don't need to over-explain yourself. And I feel as though even from my most trusted mentors and advisors, and I get it, generations and different cultures have been taught different things, different influences and things like that. But I really do stand on this notion of I don't need, no is a complete sentence. It's enough for me to just say not today, or, can't commit to that. And I've been practicing doing that as well. And actually just today that happened where, I'm going on a camping trip, and I remember being young and going on these family trips where it's multiple families, and it's like, all the families are maybe in one van, and bless my parents for doing that, honestly, because, as a single mother with 2 kids, it's only the 3 of us, I know my limit, right? And there's a lot of factors as well. I know it's cycles, right? And so even though my kids maybe are very young and they don't have the same hormonal cycle that we have as adult women, they have different cycles that are triggered by different things, transitioning from their father's house to my house. And so I have to honor that, and I have to respect that, and I have to create more space for myself.
Yes.
And I have really learned how to not just say, because I part of me is, I do love to say yes. Number one, for the satisfaction of saying yes, because it feels good to say yes and give that person what they want. Number 2, because I want to say yes, I want to. Yes, I want to do that, and I want to do this, and I want to fill my life to the very brim so that I don't have to take time to think or feel, right? And then, there's just the other aspect of, I want to, you're asking me for an opportunity to be closer to you, to spend more time with you. And what I've realized now is that more is not better.
Yes.
Quality and quantity do not equate to one another.
Yes.
And actually, me respecting the fact that I may not be able to have the energy, and my kids may not have that energy, and I have to respect this space first in order to present my best self to you,
Right.
has really been a lesson that I've been learning.
Right. And like you mentioned, honoring where your children are at, right? Because, and this is what has helped me get really serious about setting boundaries and not running myself ragged and scheduling myself back to back to back to back every single day.
Right.
My partner's been really, really instrumental in helping me reflect on that and, looking at the why. Why am I doing all that? Is it really serving me, or am I just living on autopilot and propulsion and whatever comes my way I feel like I need to do? But really reflecting on, like, is this serving me?
Right.
And then if it is, making space before and after it for that time to reflect and digest, that transition time to move from one thing to the next. He sent me a really cool article on slow parenting.
Okay.
And in our society, I feel like we have transitioned away from letting kids just go out and play and scheduling every single moment of their life so that they can be fully developed. My goodness.
I am so glad you're saying this right now, because I am 100% on board with that. And I know that, they get exposed to things. They, climb, they come here and they climb with me, and they play golf with their father, and they do things. But I have seen this almost compulsive sport playing a lot. And part of me starts to feel bad. Am I a bad mother that my kids aren't in baseball on Monday and soccer on Tuesday and gymnastics on Wednesday and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I stop and I back myself up, and I remember that my intention was exactly this. My intention was not to overwhelm and Kumon on Friday and this and that. Yeah. And so I, remember that, no, this isn't what I wanted. I did want them to have a childhood, and I wanted them to feel, that they have the space. And whenever actually my kids say, oh, I'm bored, I say, good. You need the space to be bored.
Yes.
That boredom is serving you somehow. And I call it meditation now.
Sure.
And so thank you for saying that, because, I feel guilt of, oh, they're not in sports every single day after school. And that's not even possible for me. I have needs of my own. I need to go to the gym myself.
Is that quality over quantity?
Right. Yes.
And I understand the intention of, I want to see what they like, right? And I want to put them in a lot of different things. But if they're doing all those things at the same time, it's, and to each their own. Maybe there are some kids that have so much energy and they need to.
Yes.
But it's not right for every child. It's not right for every family. And what I love about your parenting is that you don't stop your whole life and revolve it around the girls. Not to say that, like, you don't care for them. You show up for them, and you're always there for them and are very present with them. But you don't revolve all of your activities around them. You don't stop your life for them. And I think that's really healthy. I think that is something that we've moved away from in parenting of, okay, what's the kid's schedule, and then how can I fit my life around their schedule?
Right.
They don't benefit from that. You integrating them into your life, oh, mom has to cook, would you like to help me mix this? They feel integrated. They feel like they belong. They're learning life skills, without feeling like, oh, I have to rush you to this. I have to rush you to this. I have to rush you to this.
And we do rush, by the way, and it's so painful. Like even rushing to school in the morning or when we have to go somewhere, it is so painful. And that's why I feel like I limit it to some degree. Because if I had to do that 24/7, I would just go nuts. Absolutely, absolutely nuts. And I try to adjust the activities in a way that I'm enjoying something out of it and I'm getting out of it. So I'll take my kids swimming, and they'll swim in the pool and they'll play in the pool for however many hours they want, right? Because one thing about kids that I did notice is what's really hard for them is they love routine, but they don't like the transition between routines. And so if I'm saying, hey, let's get out of the pool, that's a process. I have to start by, hey, 10 minutes, I'm setting the alarm, we're getting out of the pool. And then I have to do a countdown, 5 minutes. And I'm sure it's really annoying to other people who are like, oh my gosh, Mom, we get it. But the kids have to be reminded. Otherwise, it's a mess. Kind of, we got to set up and things. So yeah, no, I totally, I agree with that. I've seen it with my own kids, and I'm curious what, the result is. I know there's no end to parenting, but I'm very curious to see what kind of kids they grow up to be. And it's funny to watch them, what kind of kids they are now. Because they are very empathetic and loving and, conversational. I felt like it was very different with the previous generation where I feel like I was being parented at. And, with my kids, they love the over explanations, right? My kid wants to know, you will never guess what she asked the other day. She was asking about.
Which one?
Dahlia, the oldest. She was asking about why is it this process? So they learned very early that when the clouds are gray, it's ominous, might rain. So keep a heads up. And they're like, why this process, right? And I got into nitty gritty details about condensation and evaporation and, the molecules. I'm down to molecular level, atomic level. And she loved it.
Oh.
She loved it. She wanted to hear about it. She was like, yeah, no, tell me more.
Absolutely.
And she wants that scientific, kind of atomic level.
That's great that you can provide that for her because I could not do that.
Well, but you have your strengths, which is, knowing the holistic side. Because when I came to your class, I was very surprised how much I learned in such a short period of time. So
And that's the other thing is that kids learn best from example. So we can tell our kids, eat healthy, get enough sleep.
Right.
All the good things, but if we're not practicing that, they learn way more from seeing rather than hearing.
I wish it was like that with cleaning.
Yes, it's true. But if you make cleaning fun, turn on some music, make it a dance party.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. I like that.
Yeah, everything, like we are kids on the inside, so like we just have to think about, what would I have loved as a kid? What would my inner child love? And like, and another thing that I wanted to mention is that, and I don't have kids yet, so I wanted to be clear on
Ariana
that.
just got engaged. Yay! And you're getting married in August.
November.
Why did I think August? No, you're moving in August.
Moving in August.
Okay, so you're getting married in November, and you met your partner here
at the climbing gym. Yes.
Yeah, and you were doing what you loved. Which, women often are like, we're going to meet a man.
Yeah. God, it was a process. It was years and years of painful dating and trial and error, but it was a necessary process to realize how good I have it now with my partner. And also, I realized how much I was trying to control it, how much I desperately wanted to be in partnership. I was like, I have so much love to give. Where is the person? Hindsight is 20/20. Yeah. He needed to do his own work. I needed to do my own work before finding each other. And if we hadn't done that, it probably wouldn't have worked. It was what it was. But yes, we are very much aligned on how we want to raise our kids and how we want them to be their own person and not, I want you to become this or I want you to do this. But really trying to take almost a back seat of like, who are you? What do you love to do? And how can I help support you in that?
Yep.
Of course, setting the structure and the discipline, because without rules, kids need that structure they don't know.
Yeah.
Without rules, it's neglect. So too few rules can lead to neglect. Yeah. Too many rules can lead to abuse.
Right.
And so finding that happy medium where, you're telling them about things, you're teaching them, but you're also letting them teach you and giving them space to share with you, because I find that with my partner, he is such an, he wants to show me things when he does them. He wants to explain things to me. And I feel like as kids, we're not given that time and space often by our parents to like just be there
Figure it
and
out.
witness them.
Yeah.
And,
It's hard though, because so it's funny you say that. My oldest, she's really good at like deductive reasoning, so she can deduce things really well. But she also, because I was mentioning that conversational, type of relationship with her, I can remember growing up and my mom was kind of like, I don't like that person, I don't like that friend, you shouldn't hang out with them. And by the way, she was spot on correct. Okay, my mother's intuition is like, I mean, that is some Eastern witchy something going on there. I mean, she is intuitive, no doubt. She can look at a picture of you and she's got you nailed.
Nice.
I mean, it's scary, actually. But because I'm very independent and I wanted to figure things out on my own, I resisted that a lot, right? As a result, I'm on the other spectrum where I will actually hold back my opinion until it gets to a point where I'm kind of like, or she'll say something, my daughter will say something, and I'm kind of like, and it's never like, I don't want you doing that, I don't want you hanging out with that. It's like, I'm not a fan of this behavior. This behavior doesn't work for me. If it were me, I don't know that I could be around that. And I notice that she'll like cut that person off. And so I actually have to be careful about what I say because, and this is true with my mother as well. Mother's opinions are so powerful.
Yes.
And children, especially the oldest children, really do need to that's where the strength of the eldest daughter comes from, is like, having that ability to kind of make those informed decisions based on experience.
Right.
And being able, and actually I just did a reel on this today about how I feel like there's this misconception. I do not like the word self-sabotage. I do not like the word or the phrase, getting in your own way, because that implies you are the bad guy. Guess what? You are the bad guy and you are the victim and you are getting in your own way. What I feel is happening actually is that I think that you grew up in a certain environment and your very intelligent frontal lobe came up with a defense mechanism, and you probably even tested the theory and it worked once or twice. It worked enough times where you thought, this is a core belief, a defense mechanism that I'm implementing. And what happens is we outgrow it, but it started so young in our unconscious mind. And, that's the thing that is now no longer serving us. And so I love that Japanese, culture of thanking that thing you're no longer needing. When you donate your clothes, you thank the clothes before you donate them.
That.
Yeah. What's her name?
Marie Kondo?
Yes, Marie Kondo. She talks about it in her show. I haven't read her book, but in her show she says, you kind of thank the clothes and you donate. So I like to do that with my old core beliefs and my old defense mechanisms of like, thank you and kind of move on. And so I feel like I kind of went down this rabbit hole.
No. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And my mother's a therapist, and she's big into IFS, internal family systems therapy, and kind of a similar concept of when you're noticing a part of you that self-sabotage or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. An old belief that's getting in the way, maybe.
Sure. Let's say emotional eating.
Okay.
Food brings me pleasure. When I eat yummy food, I feel amazing in that moment. Maybe that's something we learned as kids. Maybe that's something that we saw and we experienced, and it's helped us to get to where we are now.
Right.
However, if we realize it's no longer serving us,
correct,
thanking it for helping us find that pleasure and be okay in the moment, bringing us that temporary joy, and then letting it know, hey, we're actually this age now, and we actually have other coping mechanisms that are healthier, that serve us more. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
What new role would you like to play?
Right.
This part of me that used to do that. What new role would you like to do? And when you're not burdened with that behavior, that feeling, what would you like to do instead?
Yeah, exactly. No, I had actually a client ask me, how do I have social media addiction, which many of us do.
Oh, yeah.
Many of us do. How do you deal with that? And I work as a social media manager for a couple of small businesses as well. How do I do that? I'm on social media a lot. I have to be. Well, first of all, it's a little different from a business perspective because it does kind of become a chore. And again, there's a different mindset.
Right.
I'm not on it just to kind of watch these fun videos. I'm on it because I want to, do the interaction, do what I need to do for social media. So that's totally different. But what I said to the client was, hey, so there's a couple things here. Number one, see if you can mindfully check what's happening right before you do the social media binge.
Right.
Is it, it's right before, for me, usually it's right before bed. And it's because I don't want to have those thoughts, the before bed thoughts. Everything's quiet after a long day, and my mind now has time for mischief. And so I'm avoiding that, right? And so, knowing that, I think, is the first step. And also in parallel, kind of, thanking it for serving what it served, and then recognizing that, it's not serving the same way, but, not necessarily resisting it or hating it or, making it a poisonous thing, because it's not. And then also the last step is, how do we use it as a reward for doing that tough thing that you're avoiding? So, especially in productivity coaching, it's all about, okay, I have a task. It's a multi-step task. I don't want to do it. How do I reward myself for taking a step toward that task? Or, start to brainstorm about that task. 5 minutes of social media, 10 minutes of social media, setting a timer and, doing that. I think so I love what you said about how to play that new role, because utilizing something like that as more of a, reward rather than I'm punishing myself for doing this thing, I think is also a really important way to make those shifts.
Yeah, and then you mentioned like the productivity coaching perspective. I'm a health and well-being coach, and so if a client came to me with that idea or that problem that they wanted to confront, figuring out the why behind it. What's the root of it? What is it that you would like to do instead? When have you been the happiest? What's the optimum action and outcome? And what helped you do that then? How can we help you do that again?
Exactly.
Viewing it as a reward, viewing it as with the timeline, that's very helpful, because I find myself, okay, I'm going to go on, and then I'm like hours later and I feel horrible about myself. So it's that mindlessness behind it of, which also, every once in a while is fine. But if you find like it's taking over and controlling your life.
And you're now neglecting responsibilities. That's when it becomes an issue. Is when you're, something that is required, or, you're not eating, you're not sleeping. So that's the thing, is going before bed. If I'm scrolling on social media for 2 hours, that's 2 hours of sleep I just lost. And that's where, it becomes a problem. So it's not the actual action itself. It's, what are you sacrificing for that thing?
And what can you do instead that can give you a similar feeling and be healthier, right?
Yep.
If you are doing the scrolling because you want to reward yourself after a long day of work, how can you do something else that would feel like a reward, right? It might be meditating. It might be reading a book you love. It might be, lighting some incense, doing that self-love being behavior rather than the mindless reach for whatever is easiest.
So now what I try to do is I try to have a 5-minute timer on the scrolling, and then after 5 minutes of scrolling, the phone goes away, or I put an affirmation on it or a meditation on it or some frequency sound. That goes away, and then I, grab my book and I read that for like half an hour.
So I've tried that as well, and I struggle with it because I hit the 5-minute timer, and I'm like, oh, just like one more minute. Same thing with like snoozing my alarm in the morning with sleeping in. So do you have that issue as well? And what do you do with
I forgive myself.
Okay.
So this is my process. Consistency is not doing the exact same thing the exact same way every single day. Consistency is the fact that you have the timer, you honor the timer, and even in being like, oh, instead of one more minute, the only difference I would do is thanking the timer. Thank you, and then taking a moment to reflect, like, again, the why, right? And then you can make that decision. I have made, and honor yourself for that. I have made this decision to snooze the timer and keep going for another 7 minutes, and don't look back. So one thing I talk about eating, actually, you're loathing yourself or you're loathing something, you are releasing cortisol and negative hormones. Anytime you're feeling happy, serotonin, dopamine, these happy hormones, endorphins. Endorphin is like the pain relief hormone, right? These happy hormones are coming out, okay? So if I'm eating a food, a muffin, a delicious muffin, and I'm loathing myself for it, and I'm cursing myself and saying, this is going to go straight to my hips where I don't want it to go. I personally like it going to my hips. But, a lot of women I hear say it's going to go straight to my hips, it's going to go straight to my arms, and you're literally, I feel, manifesting exactly that, not just spiritually, but biologically, by releasing those chemicals and hormones. So instead, this is my aspect of it. If I'm going to eat a food, number one, I better love that food. It better be tasty and it better be delicious. And if it's not, and I take a bite and I find out it's not delicious, I may not finish the food, and I'm okay with that. Number two, if I don't want to eat it, I simply don't. If I'm full, this, especially growing up, finish your food, every, bite on the plate and stuff, I do not subscribe to that. you can put it away and you can eat it later. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when I eat out, yes, I spend, whatever, $20, but it's really $10 a meal because
Right.
if I take it home and I eat it later, right? And so there's something to be said about that. But this idea of like having to finish every food on your plate, can you imagine? I remember struggling every bite and feeling, just full and oversaturated, satiated, and still going because I have to do this.
Yeah.
And so I think that releases these negative hormones in the body and it manifests itself in a negative way. Whereas I could eat that same muffin. I mean, look, now I'm really going down a rabbit hole. We are surrounded by poison.
Mhm.
There is poison in the gas, poison in the air, poison everywhere we go. And our body has some mechanism to be able to expel, adapt, filter, right? And so I can, no matter what, it's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. And I can either say it's all going to happen exactly as it is and it's going to work out, whatever that means, or I can be dreading and in worry. And I've tried both, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with worry, you make it worse.
Yeah.
Worrying about getting somewhere on time doesn't help you get there on time.
Right, correct.
Just makes you miserable on the way there.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I could, what I've realized is after, reducing a lot of my worry, and I've used different tools to do that as well, I have so much more time to pay attention to the details and plan better.
Yes.
And, preparation. So now that's a reward that I have for myself is preparing so that, when I get there, I'm like, well, I'm prepared,
Yes.
and I get a little dopamine hit from that too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is like being proactive rather than reactive
Right.
is huge from a planning standpoint,
Right.
from a parenting standpoint,
Yes.
from any kind of like relationship or interaction of thinking about things before doing them.
Right.
A lot of people are like, I don't have time. Like, I don't have the space or time to even think or hear my own thoughts.
Right.
But for me, that comes down to prioritization, right?
I agree.
Do you not have time, or do I not have time because I was scrolling for 2
Right.
hours prior to this?
Or I spent so much time worrying about the last thing that happened.
How do I want to spend my time is something that has really revolutionized how I live every single day. And how you live every single day is how you end up living your life.
It's true. Yeah, no, I agree with that a lot. And you were talking about prioritization. You're singing my language right now. I mean, really, that is the key. And I remember I was in college and I was at my first job. I was a receptionist at a law firm. And the attorney, the main attorney, would always say, Remy, prioritize, prioritize. And I was an 18-year-old kid. I didn't know what that meant. This idea of prioritization, and that's part of, I think, the important, aspects of really living a meaningful, wholesome, happy life is that when you do prioritize, not that you don't have enough time. And that's part of the time management that I focus on too. It's never that you don't have enough time. It's how are you puzzle piecing that time together. So an example is, and a lot of people do this, making phone calls during car rides, right? If I can get a phone call in during a car ride or while I'm cleaning the house or something like that, and we're having a nice conversation, a meaningful conversation, I've made time for that person and for myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I also want to bring up, though, being careful of multitasking.
Yeah.
Because you saying that you talk on the phone in the car.
Yeah.
It's great and it's super effective. But also differentiating when that's appropriate or not.
Yeah.
Because for me, one of the things that was like the most frustrating was my mom would talk on the phone whenever we were in the car when I was growing up.
Oh, okay.
And it made me feel very unimportant.
Oh.
And she recognizes it now and says, I wish I would have had that time back with you, because that's quality time that you could be spending and talking. And even if it's silent, you never know when the kid is going to speak up and say something. And so
I've needed a lot of support and emotional support and stuff like that. But now I realize, like, talking on the phone in front of my kids. In fact, in front of my kids, I just don't even talk on the phone in front of them at all if I can help it. Now it's conscious and they like hear what I'm saying. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hear that. And it's, that is that balance of when do you prioritize them and when do you prioritize yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like balance prioritization. And it's so moment by moment. You know, there are some things that I did to plan before I became a parent. And a lot of it ended up being moment by moment. But there were some core things that I knew I would never expose my kids to. And I haven't, thank God. And, it's like those are the things that were so deeply embedded, and when it exposed me, so I can relate to, this was something that really, touched you in a way.
My mom was a very modern mom. So she
Uh-oh.
was a woman who wanted to do it all.
Yeah.
She wanted to have the career she did.
Yeah.
She's an incredibly successful therapist in her field, leading guide in mental health, and she does a million things up until this day. And I love her, and I think she's amazing, and I think she did the best with what she could.
And she's a sweetheart.
And she's very loving and nurturing and everything. And I'm very much like her naturally. And so my natural inclination is to also fill up my schedule, because I have so many passions and there's so many things that light me up and that I want to do in the world. So I'm learning that lesson of, when you're so busy and you're running away from yourself, or you're not creating space for the reflection, like, you could be doing all these amazing things, but you're not letting it digest.
Right.
Same with your kids, right? They could be in a million things,
yes,
but they don't have time to devote to one thing, right? My mom is amazing, and she has helped me become the woman I am today. And she's also helped me see how I would like to do things a little bit differently, for myself and for my kids. So, like I mentioned, I'm not a mom yet. However, I'm trying to practice how I would like to show up for my kids even before they're here.
Yeah,
so,
well, you have to. Yeah, you have to.
So I'm doing this healing work, so that I don't pass down these patterns and these belief systems onto my kids right now. I'm very much have had baby fever for a very long time, and I would love to have a baby tomorrow.
Yeah.
But once I have that baby, there's no going back.
Yeah.
So this is really precious time that I can use to set myself up for success,
right?
To give myself all that time that I need to mother that inner child as best as I can,
right?
So that inner child can be a healthy playmate for my future children.
That's amazing. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. That's really beautiful. Yeah, I think that's important. And I love that notion of the inner child being playful with the children. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's really good. And yeah, your mom is an amazing person, and I could see that as well. And it does make me reflect also on, because I can be busy. But I also do feel like, for example, my kids were home for a week after they were with their dad for a couple weeks. And I knew I wanted to completely dedicate that time to them.
Yeah. Quality time. There's nothing that is better.
Yeah. And we, spent a lot of time together, and we spent a lot of time, and they did their, gymnastics. One of them did the gymnastics camp, and, we got to have those conversations in the car afterwards and things like that, and they were very helpful. And then once they left, I jumped right back into my gym routine because, that's important too. Right. I think that's really, the physical fitness. So we climb together, and it's super fun. And, we started climbing together in January.
Yeah.
And so I was at another gym in Sunnyvale, and Ariana had said to me, I think months before I joined this gym, to come and, see her at the gym and, do one of her yoga classes. And I had a lot going on at that time. And then finally I had enough reason to make the move, and I came here and we started climbing together. And I remember, climbing with you is very inspiring. You're a strong climber. You're a graceful climber. Talk about your climbing journey a little bit.
My climbing journey.
Yeah. When did you start climbing?
Oh gosh, I started climbing back in 2017. One of my friends was wanting to try it out because she knew that movement was important, and she did not like going to the gym.
Okay.
And I felt very similarly. Like, I knew working out was good.
Yeah.
I knew I felt better after, but I hated just jumping on a treadmill and not thinking about anything.
Right.
It was the worst for me.
Yeah.
Still kind of is. And so she helped me see, like, how can I bring joy and play into movement? And when I first started climbing, I did not like it. Yeah. I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, same. I didn't like it either. Yeah, for a long time. And then I realized it wasn't the climbing I didn't like. It wasn't the right environment for me.
Right. But also for me, it was like the perfectionism of, I wanted to be good at it right away, right? Yeah. And I'm good at yoga right away because I did gymnastics when I was little, right? And so with climbing, it was a little bit different. It took a learning curve, and I actually stopped climbing for a few years in between, and then I came back to it. And that time that I came back to it is when I really got much more into it, because I realized it was not just good for me physically, because constantly moving your body, making yourself stronger, but it helped me have a goal and finish it, see that tangible goal being accomplished.
Yes.
It was fun. It felt like I was back on the playground trying to climb and figure out things. And
projects.
The rocks are colorful.
They're colorful.
This is not a boring place.
Yeah, it's not.
And then also the community behind it, the social aspect. I like to top rope, and that takes two people.
Yes.
And so for me, it's not just I'm climbing and I'm moving my body. I'm also connecting with someone else.
Yes, correct. Yeah, there's some gyms, I guess, that offer the automated top rope.
Yes.
That is not for me. I am not going to do that because I love that part of, like you said, the community. I think yesterday I was here and I was climbing with my partner, and we kind of lied down on the crash pad for a few minutes and just chatted.
Yeah.
And looked up at the colorful rocks and chatted, and it was such a nice, opportunity. Have you gone outdoor climbing yet?
I have been outdoor climbing, but not in a while.
Okay. You should come with us.
Yeah, definitely.
We've been going. So I've gone twice now.
Nice.
And the first time the experience was incredible. It was 11 of us, and we had kind of gone to Castle Rock and stuff, and it was really fun. It was so different. My first outdoor climb, I'm so grateful I went with the group I did because they were so encouraging. Yay, first outdoor climb was excellent. The second climb was so different. It was at a different place. There was a lot more water, so a lot more mosquitoes, which I did not anticipate. I didn't climb nearly as much as I had the other time. But I scrambled. So scrambling is basically it's not climbing, but it's like a hiking with hands also. So there's a lot of rocks and a lot of things, and just kind of getting through those barriers, with the hands. And I noticed I used a lot of my climbing techniques when I was. Have you scrambled?
Yes.
Okay, tell me your experience.
Yeah, it's fun. It feels like you're bear crawling up the stairs when you're a little kid again.
Yeah. But you're actually I'm actually using my upper body strength as well.
Right.
So that was fun, but you should definitely come with us. We're going to go to Castle Rock again soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So anyways, thank you so much for being on the show, Ariana. Really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really grateful to have you as a belay partner, and I also like to have the community aspect of climbing. And thank you everybody for joining us on another episode of Modern Mom. We'll see you next time.